We're live. Today's daily reading is from the book by Master Paramahansa Yogananda. It's called Man's Eternal Quest. And the reading is from the chapter Man's Eternal Quest. So I just want to read to it. It was a lecture from Paramahansa Yogananda in 1941. It was at the first Self-Realization Fellowship Temple at Encinitas in California, February 16th, 1941. So that was during World War II. The flowers outside are so beautiful, but behind them is a garden still more lovely. Though it is very subtle and hard to discern in the beginning, if you can penetrate to the inner realm through the door of the spiritual eye, you will discover it. I live in that garden, a region of exquisite qualities, of tender thoughts more sweet and fragrant than any flower. There, the bee of my mind is continuously drinking the honey of God's presence. As we interiorize our concentration and live more and more in that invisible land within us, we find that our soul qualities take special forms. Each materialization is a window through which we perceive the Lord's indescribable sweetness. Don't think that the search for God consists only in meditation. Every good quality that you express in thought and action yields the hidden nectar of God's presence. If your inner perception is deep enough. When we pass through the door of the spiritual eye, we see inside ourselves the factory of intelligent life energy that has created the whole universe. Because we don't concentrate within, we are mystified by the imprints of the invisible spirit in nature. We behold the productions of God. His name is written in the flower and in the sky and everything, but he is silent. As human beings, we are very much privileged, for among all God's creatures, man alone has the physical, mental, and spiritual environment necessary to seek him, to find him, to know him, and to understand his language of silence. What is a successful life? A child pictures success as having all kinds of playthings and perhaps a toy car to ride in. A poor child thinks how happy he would be if he had a lot of toys. A wealthy child, on the other hand, may be bored with his playthings. He has a restlessness in his soul. In time, it may become very difficult to please the child of the rich, for he already has so many possessions. When we are older, we laugh at the desires of our childhood, and who knows, but whatever we are wishing for now, thinking it will bring the fulfillment of our life's dream, will one day have little significance for us. I found this to be so. I didn't want to become drunk with emotions, heedlessly bent on the follies I saw others pursuing, and I looked farther on. If you gaze a little ahead, we can see ourselves that most of the things we think we want are not going to make us really happy. Success is necessary in order to possess the essentials of life, food, cl- food, clothing, shelter, and health. If you don't have these, at least to a certain degree, you're in a wretched position. You should be able to attain the minimum amount of comfort and happiness that you're seeking. Whether one is spiritual or material idealist, all persons can agree that there are a few basic physical needs that must be met so that man can preserve his bodily temple. Unless he maintains his temple, he cannot succeed in anything else. Happiness is a creation of your own mind. But what is real success? If you attained everything you wanted in this life, you would eventually become disillusioned anyway. By analyzing, I saw for myself that only pleasure I had in anything was that which my mind gave it to it. If I withdrew my attention, enjoyment of any object vanished. This I saw the pleasure in the eternal, a concept of one's own mind. The beauty of your most valued possession, which you may be holding in front of your eyes, disappears when your thoughts are absent from it. Only when you put your mind onto it, you perceive its loveliness. Therefore, it is reasonable to say that within us and not outside us lies most of the happiness we are seeking. We can magnify our happiness or minimize it. One person has a little home and says, I enjoy it more than a palace. Someone else has a palace in which he does not take as much pleasure as the other person has in a pretentious cottage. The secret of success and happiness is inside you. If you have found success and prosperity outside, but not inside, you're not truly successful. A millionaire who is not happy is not successful. I don't mean that if you have $1 million, you cannot be a success. Whether you're rich or poor, if you can get happiness out of life, you're a real success. Pleasure that lasts only for a moment and leaves you with regret afterward is not happiness. In true success, even though the first excitement of delight in some accomplishment fades away, the gratifying memory of fulfillment remains. All the good things that you have done in your life stay on in your memory as a joy forever. They are the real success that you have attained. To be happy under all circumstances is real success. Success is not a simple matter. It cannot be determined merely by the amount of money and material possessions you have. The meaning of success goes far deeper. It can only be measured by the extent to which your inner peace and mental control enable you to be happy under all circumstances. That is real success. When you can look within your conscience and is clear, you reason and unprejudiced, you're firm yet flexible, and your discrimination is strong. And when you're able to obtain at will the things you need and the things you consider worthwhile, you are a success. As a child, you could be happy with little things, but now you tend to think you have to own several homes and cars, even though you can see that those who have them are not invariably happy. Plain living and high thinking make for contentment. Plain living and high thinking make for contentment. That's interesting. Worth pondering thought. Plain living and high thinking make for contentment. Keeping your mind on the plane of ideas will give you more happiness than if you dwell on externals. Those who are preoccupied mostly with looking after their home, their possessions, their dress are not necessarily civilized. You can dress up a dog, but that doesn't make it civilized. The difference between man and a dog is that man can voluntarily change his consciousness and his nature. He can penetrate deep within into the region of the spirit where the dog cannot. Man's love is transcendental. When we die, the dog may grieve for us a little while, in some cases till death, but human friends never forget us if they don't want to. Throughout incarnations, so mankind has tremendous advantages over other creatures. Evolutionary human progress lies in the power of thought. As a human being, you make your greatest evolutionary progress by the power of thought. Set aside some time each day to improve your mind. It is more commendable to read a while than to occupy yourself day and night with housework or with non creative activities. Plan your life so that you do not live in a haphazard way, but if your tendency is to organize your time, get away from the extreme also. Balance is necessary in every avenue of life. Instead of using your mind only to plan your everyday work and other passing activities, or with idle mind, letting your time slip away, employ some of the time in the constructive reading. Have at some worthwhile reading material and peruse it during free moments. It is more effective to have a variety of literature, a bit of science, a bit of history, philosophy, biography, travel. Anything will expand and inspire mind. Good books can be dear friends, and if your selections are choice ones, you'll experience much benefit from them. It may seem very hard at first when you read Emerson or Milton or Plato or some of the great saints, but after a while you'll find yourself thinking about what they have written. You'll feel you have gained something because all those sages received their wisdom from the infinite treasure house of God. Ideas that otherwise might not occur to you in a lifetime. However, many people read constantly and yet cannot tell you what they have read. The best way to read a book is to introspect about it, see how it applies to your own life, and learn to discriminate. Do not accept blindly everything that you read. It should be met the test of your mind. To be worthwhile, books should cause you to think. If you do that, you'll find that your mind is developing. Receive knowledge directly from spirit. People who do not read or meditate, who live only externally, do not develop any understanding. Meditation keeps you directly in tune with the power that evokes all thought. To touch that supreme power is meditation. As a human being, you do injustice to yourself if you don't read, but to meditate is still better. I would like to read, but I can scarcely finish 2 pages before I am called to attend to something else, so I have given up reading. I find it more profitable to meditate. As I go deeper within, radiant lights appear and great joy comes, joy that remains with me all day long. Such is my experience, such is the experience of all who commune with the ever blissful Lord. Don't waste your time. God wants you to be a balanced individual. If you allow your life to become unbalanced, you'll be punished by the cosmic law. Live simply, have daily physical exercise, study rewarding books, and cultivate the habit of daily meditation. If you meditate, you'll find much more happiness than you have ever known. All knowledge will be given to you from within. My life has been that way. I've not read 20 books since I came to America 20 years ago. I'm not proud of the fact I would have been wholly ignorant if I hadn't had, through meditation and consciousness of spirit. When I look at a book, I see that whatever truth it contains has already been given to me from God. All thought and truth come from spirit. If you commune with him and you receive his wisdom and direct. So read good books rather than waste time on unproductive activities. But better still, meditate and anchor your mind on the ultimate truth, which is God. Man's evolution ordained by cosmic law. In different ages and places, man has developed by his thought processes various ideas about life and the soul. For instance, when members of some primitive tribes have headaches, they think their soul is lost and they appeal to the medicine man for healing. He goes out in the woods looking for the lost soul, which he brings back in a box. Then he replaces the soul in the patient's head, and the headache is supposedly gone away. It is the custom in another culture when anyone is sick to put fish hooks into the flesh so that if he happens to sneeze, his soul will escape but will caught by the hooks. As though the process of faulty thought, some people have arrived at erroneous conclusions about the soul. So by true reasoning, others have come to a more profound understanding. We know that the soul is not a puff of breath because there are persons who have lived long in the suspended animation state without breathing at all, showing that the soul can be bound by breath. The soul is something beyond breath or any other physical condition. Whether or not one believes in himself as a soul, he is bound by the cosmic law to develop consciously or unconsciously his deeper nature. Whatever a person's occupation in life, his consciousness is evolving whenever he is planning something or otherwise using his intelligence creatively. Man evolves through every constructive action he performs. The trouble with most people is that when they are performing action, they're thinking about something else. They don't know how to concentrate on what they're doing when they're doing it. You should learn to think of one thing at a time with all the power of your mind. Your whole attention should be there. Don't drag along doing things in a haphazard way, leading to failure and misery. Man should be a psychological automation, like the animal, which acts only through instinct. To be unthinking is the great sin against spirit, which abides in you. We are meant to be conscious of what we do. We should reflect before we act. We should learn how to use our minds so that we can evolve and realize our oneness with the Creator. Everything we do should be the result of premeditated thought. Aim for high goals. It is a waste to use the power of thought to obtain things that are not important. Learn to remove the weeds that have grown in the garden of the mind. Make your mental garden so beautiful that God will come there. If you want to have such a mental garden blooming in the soul of wisdom, you must make your life simple. By doing everything consciously, not absent-mindedly, you can analyze your activities. Then choose what is important, cut out the non-essentials. As soon as you're through with your duties, withdraw your mind from them and employ it in other creative pursuits. God fulfills man's eternal quest. Learn how to cultivate the consciousness of spirit. That is why you were born a human being. You're created under an evolutionary law that you might exercise your divine powers to find God. The animal can't find him. Larry Mashai was working on the science of helping animals to evolve more quickly, but he didn't live to finish his work. I also know of some ways to quicken the evolution of lower forms of life. But what of millions of human beings who are living like animals? When they leave this world, they haven't fulfilled the purpose of their existence. Why not fulfill it now? You can if you concentrate. The only meaning of life is to find the all loving God who has kept us apart from himself by shyly hiding from us. We must find him. Mankind is engaged in the eternal quest for that something else he hopes will bring him happiness complete and unending. For those individual souls who have sought and found God, the search is over. He is that something else. Nature veils cause God's presence. Why was temptation given to man? That he might look for the one who is more tempting than any world temptation. The earthly lures that surround you are not intended to snare you, but to cause you to see beyond them, to make you ask, who created all these things? Who made me? Who am I? Where are you, Lord? Why are you hiding? Talk to me. When you directly approach God with these questions, he answers. Most people don't call deeply enough to him, and so they never find him. You must speak clearly to him in the language of your soul. Lord, I want to no longer see only the beauty you have created. I want to behold your face, which is more beautiful than the flowers, more entrancing than all other faces. I want to see who is behind all nature. Even if a person covers himself with a veil, you can see that someone is there. So is nature like a great veil bulging with God's presence? He is hiding there, but you take just a casual look, not penetrating to see that shy indweller. As I sit breathless, silent, watchful in meditation, I become aware of the blissful trembling stir within me. And he whispers, I am here. The intelligence God has given us is the gateway to heaven. It is the outer door to his kingdom, but you don't use it. Why not use it now, today? Don't wait only to leave the earth like a dog kicked out by death. It is a crime against your soul. Your intelligence was given to you to discover why you were placed here to find him. How to discover spirit. There are various techniques for discovering the spirit. Silence is one of them. Practicing silence means to silence all desires that try to percolate into your consciousness from outside so you can go deeper within to feel your soul. Another step or technique is devotion, or speaking to God purely and simply. You have created me. I didn't want to be created. It is your responsibility to reveal yourself to me. Talking to him like a little while and then forgetting will bring his response. God is hard to get because not everyone means business with him. The technique of prayer is usually ineffectual because most prayers are not deep or devotionally enough. You have to repeat and repeat until you go really deep into the superconsciousness. Prayer in which your very soul is burning with desire for God is only an effectual prayer. You have prayed like that at some time, no doubt, perhaps when you wanted something very badly or urgently needed money. Then you burned up like the ether with your desire. That is how you must feel for God. Talk to him day and night. You'll see that he will respond. Yoga is the science of finding God. The yoga system of contacting God is the best. It consists of various scientifically effective techniques of meditation. The great sages of India reasoned that logically there must be an exact law by which to approach God, just as there is exact laws by which he operates his universes. Through their experiments and spiritual laws of yoga are discovered. The science of yoga will take hold in the country more than any other form of spiritual seeking. The entire trend will be away from churches where people go only to hear a sermon and into the schools and quiet places where they will go to meditate and really find God. Everyone should practice divine communion with God. This is what Jesus did when he was with his disciples. I'm not here just to tell you about the sugar of God's presence. My greatest aim is to make sure you taste it. What is the use of my talking about God unless you know him and taste his sweetness? You must realize God as I have ever realized him. It is not out of pride that I speak this way, but because I am sent here to testify to you about him day and night, that I think about my Lord. I am not wasting my time. Everything I do, I am doing only for Him. So engrossed that I don't notice the passage of time or feel a fatigue from my daily activities. I feel His presence when I work. That is also my meditation. I often give this illustration. Some worldly men remain drunk for years by hiding now and then to take a little drink to sustain euphoric feeling. Then they go back to their work. So is the divine man. He hides from people and meditates upon the Lord, drinking deep of intoxicating wine of God's presence. He whispers, Lord, you are so wonderful, so marvelous, I love you. Then he goes back to his duties. Inwardly, he talks to God all the time, no matter what he is doing. I am never separated from him for a second. That is the state I wanted and worked for. I remember that once in a while I used to feel that he had gone away from me, and at such times I wanted to die rather than live without him. I didn't find happiness in anything. Thus does the lover of God suffer when separated from him. But a time comes when the devotee beholds the Lord dancing everywhere and feels the immortal fountain of his spirit and his bliss every bubbling in his soul. This is what you'll feel if you meditate. Pray with such intensity that he'll come to you. In the Gita is a beautiful promise from the Lord. Immerse thy mind in me alone. Concentrate on me, thy discriminative perception, and beyond doubt that shall dwell immortality in me. The yoga techniques are more scientific than prayer. That is why they lead more swiftly to divine communion. In my youth, when I sought him with prayer alone, it often took a long time to get results. After I had learned Kriya Yoga and practiced it with deep devotion, I achieved results in a few minutes. Krishna taught that yoga meditation is greater than the path of asceticism, the path of devotion or prayer, the path of right action, or the path of discrimination. It is a faster way. An airplane will take you from Los Angeles to New York in a matter of hours. By bullock cart, the journey would last several months. If you practice yoga, you'll find it to be the airplane of spiritual progress. After you have perfected yourself in the yoga path, which embraces bodily discipline, mental discipline, and spiritual discipline, the obstacles to spiritual success are overcome, and you can communally free with God. That is why it's the highest path, and that is why I am trying to acquaint people with it. Yoga is not a myth, a creation of someone's imagination. It is true science. Why shouldn't you take from India the greatest methods for finding God that have ever been to mankind? I went to the masters in India for training, and they taught me about Christ in a profound and loving way, such as never I had heard in the West. I saw Christ in their company. They talked with them. Did St. Francis lie to us? He saw Christ every night. Lord Jesus lives. I've seen him. When you're behind a screen, you see everyone else outside, but they can't see you. So the saints and the angels can see you, but you can't see them unless you practice yoga. Your prayer must be intense to reach God. Last summer, I stopped in a monastery where I met one of the priests. He was a wonderful soul. I asked him how long he had been on the spiritual path as a monk. About 25 years, he replied. Then I asked, do you see Christ? I don't see, he answered. Maybe after death he will visit me. No, I sure don't. You can see him from tonight if you make up your mind. Tears were in his eyes and he remained silent. You must pray intensely. If you sit night after night practicing meditation and crying to God, the darkness will be burned up and you'll see the light behind the physical light, the life behind all life, the Father behind all fathers, the Mother behind all mothers, the friend behind all friends, the element behind all elements, the power behind all powers. That is where I live and where I want you to come. Practice of yoga awakens soul longing. You have gone away from God like the prodigal son, and it is only by returning to him within that you'll make this veil of tears in heaven of heaven. There's no other way. If everyone in this world were a millionaire, there would still be troubles and sorrows, for you cannot buy unshakable happiness. That comes only by following the technique of yoga and by devotion, by going within. Practicing yoga is half the battle. Even if you don't feel enthusiastic in the beginning, if you go on practicing, you will come to feel the tremendous longing for God, which is necessary for you to find him. Why don't you make the effort? Whence do all the beautiful things in creation continually emerge? Whence comes the intelligence of great souls, but from the storehouse of the infinite spirit. And if these wonders you see about you are not enough to induce you to seek him, why should he reveal himself to you? He has given you the capacity to love that you may yearn for him above all else. Don't misuse your love and reason, and don't misuse your concentration and intelligence on false goals. This world is only pictures of light. Night is the time for meditation. Never go to bed until you have communion. I never do. Last night, as I sat on my bed, his presence engulfed me. The whole room and everything in it was blinding light. Even when I slept, I remained locked in the arms of the divine. Never I felt so much joy. This world is all a motion picture, a projection of God's mind. There is no death, no disease, no wickedness. Someday, when he will show you his light transforming itself into this terrible cosmic motion picture of life and death, then you would draw the picture so that only his light remains. You can laugh at the unreality of his light and shadow creation. You will know then that he has created everything out of his light, and that only light is real. We must fully shake ourselves out of the dream delusion to realize that we are rays of the immortal light. This realization comes with the practice of the highest yoga technique of meditation. It cannot be conveyed in lectures. God is our only true goal. Every now and then, I receive a letter from the self-realization students in London. During these terrible air raids, they have not missed one self-realization fellowship service. That is the real spirit of England, and it is the spirit that will save England. Politicians can never save the world. It is only understanding God that will save the world. He is our true goal in this life. Otherwise, there will be no incentive for going on. Those who love God should worship in all religions. In whatever way people are devoted to me in that measure, according to their desire, their degree of understanding, and their manner of worship, I manifest myself to them. All men, regardless of their motives, seeking to pursue a path to me. Criticize no one's faith. There should be a genuine feeling of love and respect for all. Wherever you see a temple or church, you should inwardly bow down to the spirit there. It is not for everyone to be a teacher, but you can always draw the attention of others to spiritual things. Don't waste your time spending hours listening to the radio and reading useless novels. Be entertained by the divine messages coming from your own soul just by a gentle tuning touch of my love. I just program here in my heart. No one can bring you salvation unless you earn it, not through belief, not through the following dogma, but by your own knowledge and experience. You should ask yourself these questions every day. If there is a God, why don't I see him? If there are saints, where are they? The answers will be given to you. You can commune with God and his saints if you practice the science of Kriya Yoga. My sole desire is to give you the truth, that you may experience what I experience. The purpose of this life is to find yourself, know yourself, feel the throb of the ocean of God's presence in your heart. Suppose that you are floating in the ocean, rocked on the bosom of its mighty vastness. When you swim ashore, you still feel the whole ocean surging behind you as you walk into the beach. This is the way I feel God. He never leaves any of us children for a moment. He will reply to all your questions, and then there will be no more fears. Find that power. Feel the ocean of his love behind your consciousness, and you'll achieve the greatest success man can attain. Man's eternal quest. Mankind is engaged in an eternal quest for that something else he hopes will bring him happiness, complete and unending. For those individual souls who have sought and found God, the search is over. He is that something else. Paramahansa Yogananda. And that is today's daily reading from Man's Eternal Quest. God bless you and namaste.